The day my boss called me into his office and slammed a printed photo on the desk was the day my carefully constructed life shattered into a million pieces. "You're fired, Thompson," he snarled, his face twisted in disgust as he pointed to the image of me kissing Easton under the dim lights of a downtown bar last weekend. I sat there frozen, the air thick with judgment. My name is Aaron Thompson, 28 years old, and for 5 years I had been the golden boy at Horizon Corp in Chicago. Top marketing strategist, the guy who closed 7-figure deals and kept the team laughing through deadline hell. None of that mattered now. The secret I had guarded like a fortress had been breached. "How long have you been hiding this, Mr.?" Hargrove demanded. I couldn't meet his eyes. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. Easton's hand on my cheek, my smile real in a way I never allowed at work. It had been one careless night out, away from prying colleagues. Or so I thought. "It's not what you think," I stammered, but the lie tasted like ash. It was exactly what he thought. I was gay. And in this firm where family values were preached louder than quarterly targets, that was career suicide. He leaned back, arms crossed. "We have a code of conduct, Aaron. Clients expect professionalism, not this. Clean out your desk. Security will escort you out." The walk to my cubicle felt eternal. Whispers trailed me like smoke. My coworker Mike, the guy I'd grabbed beers with for 3 years, suddenly found his monitor fascinating. Later I learned he had taken the photo and forwarded it anonymously to HR. The betrayal burned hotter than the firing itself. By the time I reached my apartment in Logan Square, the weight crashed down. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Dinner Sunday? Your father wants to talk about your future." If only she knew the future had just been deleted. My parents still lived in the same suburban split level where I grew up. Dad, retired cop. Mom, elementary teacher. Both believed a man's path was straight, narrow, and led to a wife and kids. I had played the part perfectly. Homecoming dates, college girlfriends who never lasted. Easton was the first person who made the mask feel unbearable. I dialed his number with shaking hands. "Hey, babe," his warm voice answered. "Rough day. You have no idea." Within an hour he was at my door, camera bag over his shoulder, dark eyes full of worry. Easton Rivera, 30, freelance photographer, out and proud since he was 18. We had met 6 months earlier at a gallery opening in Wicker Park. One conversation became coffee, then dinner, then weekends where I could finally breathe. He pulled me into a hug. "Tell me." I spilled everything. He listened, then kissed my forehead. "I'm sorry, Aaron. But maybe this is the push you needed. You can't hide forever." Hiding. That word had defined my entire life. In high school, I dated the prom queen to keep my parents smiling. In college, I buried myself in internships. At work, I was the straight-laced professional who never mentioned a boyfriend. Easton had cracked the shell wide open. That night, we sat on my couch with Thai takeout, the city lights flickering through the blinds. "What if I can't find another job?" I asked, staring at the ceiling. "You will," he said firmly. "And if not, we figure it out together. You're not alone anymore." His words sparked something fragile inside me, but the shame still clawed at my ribs. Was I really that disgusting to them? The question kept me awake until dawn. The next morning, a voicemail from my sister arrived. "Aaron, Mom saw something on Facebook. Call me." Panic spiked. Had Mike posted it somewhere? Social media could destroy lives faster than HR. I decided to face my parents that weekend, but first I needed air. Easton suggested a walk along Lake Michigan. The wind off the water was crisp, the skyline sharp against a perfect blue sky. For the first time, I let him hold my hand in public. A few joggers glanced, but no one sneered. Small victory. "My family cut me off when I came out at 18, Easton said quietly. "It hurt like hell, but it forced me to build my own life. Now they send Christmas cards like nothing happened. People change, or they don't. Either way, you survive." His story lodged in my chest. My family wasn't violent, but their disappointment could be just as heavy. Dad still called me son, with that tone that meant be the man I raised. Back home, I opened my laptop and started rewriting my resume. Every bullet point felt like a half-truth. How do you explain being fired for being gay without sounding bitter? Easton leaned over my shoulder. Be honest in interviews. The right company will respect it. I wasn't ready for honest. Not yet. The first week without a paycheck blurred into anxiety and self-doubt. I sent out 50 applications. Callbacks were non-existent. The psychological war inside me raged. Was I unhireable now? Had the secret always been bigger than my talent? Then my mother called. Aaron, we need to talk. There's a rumor. Her voice cracked with disappointment. The secret was no longer mine to keep. And the real storm was just beginning. Sunday dinner loomed like a courtroom date. I drove to the suburbs with Easton's words echoing, "You're not alone." But as I pulled into the driveway of the house where I learned to hide, I wondered if love would be enough when family turned their backs. The front door opened before I could knock. Mom stood there, arms crossed, eyes already wet. "Come in, Aaron. Your father's waiting." Inside, the smell of pot roast hit me like childhood. Dad sat at the head of the table, newspaper folded, jaw tight. My sister Emily gave me a small, nervous smile from the couch. "Sit," Dad said. "No hello." I sat. The photo was already on the table, printed, creased, damning. "We saw this," Mom whispered. "Mike sent it to the church group chat. Said you needed prayer." The betrayal spread wider than I thought. Dad's voice was flat. "Is it true?" I looked at the man who taught me to throw a football and hide tears. "Yes." Silence crashed down. Mom covered her mouth. Emily stared at her hands. Dad's knuckles went white around his coffee mug. "You're throwing your life away," he finally said. "A man needs a wife, kids, stability. This isn't God's plan." The words I had feared for 20 years landed like fists. I felt myself shrinking, the confident executive disappearing. Easton's face flashed in my mind, his easy laugh, the way he looked at me like I was enough. I stood up. "I love him, Dad. And I'm done pretending I don't." Mom started crying. Dad pointed at the door. "Until you fix this, don't come back." I walked out into the cool night, chest hollow. The drive back to the city was a blur of streetlights and tears. When I finally reached Easton's apartment, he opened the door without a word and just held me while I shook. That was the moment something inside me cracked open, not broke, but opened. The pain was real, but so was the decision forming in the ashes. I would never hide again. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in isolation. My LinkedIn filled with polite rejections. "We're looking for someone whose values align more closely with our culture." Translation: no gays. Savings dwindled. I moved in with Easton to save rent, sleeping on his couch until we admitted the couch was pointless. His one-bedroom in Andersonville became home. Camera equipment everywhere, plants on every windowsill, the faint smell of coffee and cedar. Easton never pushed, but he never let me wallow either. "Get up, Thompson. The world doesn't pause for heartbreak." He dragged me to networking events in Boys Town, introduced me to queer entrepreneurs who had survived worse. Their stories planted seeds. One guy, a tech founder named Jordan, mentioned mental health apps for LGBTQ+ professionals. "No one's doing mentorship right," he said. "You were a marketing genius. Build it." The idea stuck like a burr. Late nights, I sketched wireframes while Easton edited photos beside me. We argued over color schemes and user flows like an old married couple. For the first time in my life, work felt like play. But the outside world refused to stay quiet. My sister texted daily at first, then weekly. "Mom cries every night. Dad won't say your name." Guilt twisted in my gut. Then came the misunderstanding that nearly ended everything. Easton had a gallery show in Pilsen. I showed up late, still in interview clothes. A friend of his, someone I barely knew, pulled me aside. "Dude, you know Easton took that photo of you too, right?" He was bragging about it at the bar. My blood turned to ice. Easton, the man who held me while I cried? I stormed out before the opening speech. He found me on the sidewalk, confused. "Aaron, what the hell? You leaked the picture?" The accusation flew out before I could stop it. His face crumpled. "You think I'd destroy your life for clout?" We fought on the street like strangers. I accused him of using me to boost his career. He accused me of never trusting anyone because I still hated myself. The words cut deeper than any family rejection. I slept on the couch that night for the first time in weeks. The next morning he left a note. "I didn't take the photo. Mike did. I have proof. But if you can't believe me, maybe we need space." Space felt like drowning. I spent 3 days alone in the apartment replaying every moment. The psychological war inside me raged louder than ever. Was I sabotaging the one good thing because I believed I didn't deserve it? On the fourth day, I drove to Easton's favorite coffee shop. He was there editing on his laptop, eyes tired. I slid into the seat across from him. I'm sorry. I was scared and I lashed out. You're the only person who's never asked me to be someone else. He closed the laptop. I know. But you have to choose to trust me, Aaron. Every day? Or this won't work. We went home and talked until sunrise. He showed me the metadata on the original photo, time-stamped to Mike's phone. The betrayal cut fresh, but the relief was bigger. We made love that night for the first time since the firing. Not rushed, not hidden, just two men choosing each other again. The turning point arrived in the mail 2 weeks later. An eviction notice for my old apartment I had sublet. I had 30 days. Instead of panic, something shifted. I opened my laptop and registered Pride Path as an LLC. The name came in the shower, mentorship for LGBTQ+ professionals who were tired of hiding. Easton grinned when I told him. That's my man. We worked 18-hour days. I coded basic features while he shot promo videos. Friends from the gallery donated time. Slowly the app took shape. Anonymous chat, verified mentors, job boards that didn't ask about family values. But family refused to stay in the past. My mother called one rainy afternoon. Your father had a heart scare. He's asking for you. The guilt hit like a truck. I drove to the hospital alone. Dad looked small in the bed. Aaron, he rasped. I was wrong about a lot. But I'm not ready to watch you throw your life away. I sat there holding his hand. The man who once taught me to be strong, now fragile. Dad, loving Easton isn't throwing anything away. It's the first honest thing I've done. He didn't answer, but he didn't pull away either. Small cracks in the wall. Back home, Easton waited with takeout and a new business plan. We launch in 3 months. You ready? I looked at the man who had seen me at my worst and stayed. With you? Yeah, I'm ready. The psychological weight lifted another inch. I was no longer running from who I was. I was building something because of it. The launch of Pride Path happened on a crisp October morning in a co-working space in the West Loop. 50 investors, reporters, and community leaders filled the room. I stood on stage in a navy suit Easton had helped pick, hard hammering. The app had already secured seed funding from a queer-led venture firm, money that felt like validation instead of charity. Pride Path isn't just software, I told the crowd. It's proof that hiding is no longer required to succeed. The applause hit different. Easton stood in the back, camera raised, proud smile visible from across the room. Afterward, a familiar face approached, my old boss, Mr. Hargrove. He extended a hand like nothing had happened. Impressive, Thompson. Horizon could use a partnership. I shook it, then let go. I'm not interested in partnerships with companies that fire people for who they love. The words came out calm, controlled. He blinked, and used to being refused. That night, Easton and I celebrated with cheap champagne on our tiny balcony. You faced him and didn't flinch, he said, clinking glasses. That's the man I fell in love with. Love. The word no longer scared me. But success attracted attention and old ghosts. My sister Emily showed up unannounced 2 days later, eyes red. Mom wants to meet Easton. Dad's been watching your interviews. He won't admit it, but he's curious. The invitation felt like a trap and a lifeline at once. We agreed to Sunday dinner. This time I walked in holding Easton's hand. The house smelled the same, but the tension had changed. Mom hugged Easton awkwardly. Dad shook his hand and muttered, "Nice camera gear." Small talk stretched like taffy. Then Dad cleared his throat. "That app of yours. People say it's helping kids who feel like I made you feel." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry, son. I was scared for you." Tears I didn't expect burned my eyes. "I was scared too, Dad. But I'm not anymore." The dinner ended with cautious laughter. Cracks became doors. Yet the universe wasn't done testing us. A week later, a major tech blog published an article, Pride Path founder fired for being gay, now changing the industry. The piece was positive, but it dredged up old wounds. Hate comments flooded our socials. Burn in hell. Fake success. Easton's ex-boyfriend, someone I had never met, commented publicly. Aaron used Easton to get funding. Classic closet case. The misunderstanding exploded online. Sponsors pulled back. Investors asked questions. I confronted Easton in our living room. "Did you tell him anything?" "No," he said quietly. "But I should have warned you." He's bitter and broke. He'll say anything. The betrayal from outside our circle forced a decision. I could hide the app's origin story or own it completely. I chose the latter. I recorded a video response. Raw, unscripted. Yes, I was fired for being gay. Yes, that pain became my fuel. If that makes you uncomfortable, keep scrolling. If it inspires you, download Pride Path. The video went viral. Downloads tripled. Sponsors returned with apologies. But the psychological toll was real. I woke up at 3 a.m. Some nights convinced it would all disappear. Easton held me through every panic attack. You're allowed to be proud and still afraid. That's human. Christmas arrived. We hosted my family for the first time. Dad brought his famous pecan pie. Mom asked Easton about his photography. Emily teased me about finally being the cool brother. The house felt warm instead of weighted. Yet one more secret remained. Mike, the co-worker who started everything, sent a LinkedIn message. Can we talk? I'm out of a job too. Horizon downsized. I stared at the message for hours. Forgiveness wasn't weakness, but forgetting was dangerous. I replied, meet me at the office next week. Bring proof you won't sabotage again. The meeting happened in the same conference room where I had been fired. Mike looked smaller. I was jealous. You were better at everything. I thought outing you would level the field. I slid a contract across the table. Pride Path needs a community manager. Salary's decent. But one more betrayal and you're gone forever. He signed. The decision surprised even me. Growth tasted like letting go of hate. That night, Easton and I lay in bed watching city lights. You're becoming the man you needed 5 years ago, he whispered. I turned to him. I couldn't have done it without you. He kissed me slow and sure. We did it together. The empire was rising. The voices that once silenced me were growing quieter every day. Spring brought the first Pride Path office, loft space in Fulton Market with exposed brick and rainbow flags in the windows. 20 employees, half of them queer kids fresh out of college who reminded me of my younger self. I walked the floor every morning, learning names, asking about dreams. The energy was electric. Easton's photography studio shared the floor. He shot campaigns for the app, real people, real stories. One video series went mega viral. I was fired for being me. My own story was episode 1. Views hit 10 million in a week. Brands wanted partnerships. We raised Series A at a valuation that made my old salary look like pocket change. Success felt surreal. I bought my parents a new car, nothing flashy, just reliable. Dad cried when he saw it. You didn't have to. I wanted to, I said. Love doesn't keep score. But money and press couldn't silence every demon. My old boss Hargrove applied for a consulting gig through a recruiter. HR forwarded the resume with a note. He specifically asked for you. I sat in my glass office staring at the name. The man who once fired me now wanted my help. The irony tasted sweet and bitter at once. I called him in. He walked in wearing the same suit, pride stripped away. Aaron, Mr. Thompson, I know I don't deserve this. I leaned back. Tell me why I should hire you. He talked for 20 minutes about learning, growth, regret. I listened. Then I slid the contract across the desk. You start as junior consultant. Same salary you gave me on my last day. One homophobic remark and you're gone. Understood. He nodded, eyes down. Understood. Watching him accept the terms felt like closing a circle. The empire wasn't built on revenge. It was built on truth. But truth still required courage. Easton and I took our first real vacation, 10 days in California. We rented a house in Malibu, walked the beach at sunrise, let the Pacific wash away the last traces of Chicago winter. One evening we sat on the sand watching the sky turn orange. Marry me, I said suddenly. He turned, surprised. Here? Now. No ring. Just us. When we're ready. He laughed and pulled me into the surf. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The proposal wasn't planned, but it felt right. No audience, no pressure, just 2 men who had survived the fire choosing forever. Back in Chicago, the wedding planning began small. My mother offered her backyard. Dad volunteered to walk me down the aisle. Emily cried happy tears. The family that once rejected me now helped pick flowers. Yet one last test waited. Mike, now my employee, came to me in tears. I'm being blackmailed. Old photos from college. Someone wants me to leak internal data, or they'll out my own secret. I sat him down. We protect our own here. Tell me everything. Together we traced the blackmail to a disgruntled ex-investor. Legal handled it quietly. Mike kept his job. The decision to stand by him proved the culture I wanted. No one left behind. The psychological growth was quiet but profound. I no longer flinched when someone called me the gay CEO. I wore the label like armor. Summer arrived with our wedding. Simple ceremony in the backyard, string lights, close friends, family. Easton looked stunning in a linen suit. When I said, "I do," the words carried every battle we had won. That night under the stars he whispered, "You made them all silent, Aaron." Not with anger, with success and love. I held him tighter. The boy who once hid was gone. The man who stood tall remained. The first year of marriage felt like breathing after years underwater. Pride Path expanded to 10 cities. We opened mentorship hubs in Atlanta, Los Angeles, New York. Young people walked in scared and left believing they could build empires too. I spoke at colleges, sharing the story I once buried. Each time the audience grew. Easton's photography career exploded alongside mine. His solo show at the MCA sold out. He dedicated the collection to the man who taught me love doesn't need hiding. I stood in the gallery watching strangers study photos of us, raw, honest, unafraid. But success always invites new tests. A national conservative group launched a boycott campaign against Pride Path, calling it anti-family. Sponsors wavered. Stock options trembled. The psychological pressure returned like an old enemy. I called an all-hands meeting. They want us to shrink. We're going to grow louder. We doubled down on visibility. Easton shot a campaign featuring our married life, cooking breakfast, walking the dog we adopted, laughing at inside jokes. The ad went viral. Sponsors returned with bigger checks. The boycott faded into background noise. My father watched every interview now. One Sunday, he pulled me aside after church. I was wrong for years. I see that now. You and Easton, you're good for each other. The words healed something deep. Then came the misunderstanding that nearly broke us again. A tabloid ran a story claiming Easton had married me for money and fame. Photographer rides coattails of gay millionaire. The article included old photos of Easton with his ex, twisted to look suspicious. I found him in the studio staring at his laptop, shoulders tight. "You believe this?" he asked quietly. "Not for a second," I said. But doubt flickered in his eyes. The years of being called a user had left scars. We spent the night talking through every insecurity. I reminded him of the nights I had nothing and he still chose me. He reminded me that love isn't transactional. By morning, the tabloid felt small. We filed a defamation suit and won quietly. The real victory was choosing trust again. Summer brought another milestone. Pride Path hit 1 million users. We threw a rooftop party in Chicago. My entire family came. Dad danced with Mom. Emily brought her new girlfriend. Mike gave a toast that ended with, "I'm proud to work for a man who gave me a second chance." Easton and I slipped away to the edge of the roof. City lights spread below like stars. "Remember when you thought this was impossible?" he asked. "I remember thinking I'd never be enough," I answered. "You proved me wrong every single day." He kissed me under the fireworks someone set off in the distance. The moment felt cinematic. Two men who had fought the world and won. But growth never stops. A young intern named Riley came to me in tears. "My parents kicked me out when they saw me on the app. I have nowhere to go." I didn't hesitate. "You're staying with us until we find you a place." Easton agreed instantly. For 3 months, Riley lived in our guest room. We helped him finish college applications. The day he moved into his own apartment, he hugged us both. "You showed me family isn't blood. It's choice." The lesson circled back to me. The family that once rejected me had chosen differently. I had chosen differently. And now I was paying that choice forward. Fall brought the biggest stage yet. I was invited to speak at the National LGBTQ+ Business Summit in Washington, D.C. Thousands in the audience. My old boss Hargrove sat in the front row, now a junior consultant who had earned every promotion through hard work and silence on prejudice. I stood at the podium. 5 years ago, I was fired for loving a man. Today, that same man is my husband, and the company I built because of that pain employs people like the man who once fired me. If that isn't progress, I don't know what is. The standing ovation lasted 2 minutes. Hargrove stood too, clapping hardest. After the speech he approached. Thank you for the chance, Aaron. I was wrong. I'm proud to work for you. The words I once craved landed softly now. I no longer needed them to feel whole. The empire kept growing. Pride Path went public in a blaze of rainbow confetti on the NYSE floor. Easton and I rang the opening bell together, hands clasped in front of cameras. My parents watched from the VIP section, Dad wiping his eyes. The stock soared. Headlines called me, the man who turned rejection into a billion-dollar legacy. But money and fame were never the goal. The goal was the quiet moments, Sunday dinners where my father asked Easton about his latest project. Late nights when Riley, now a full-time employee, texted, "Thank you for believing in him." The mornings I woke up next to the man who saw me when I couldn't see myself. One crisp autumn afternoon, I drove alone to the old Horizon Corp building. I stood across the street watching employees hurry in and out. The place that once defined me now looked small. I didn't feel anger anymore. Just gratitude for the push that forced me to become more. Easton met me for lunch afterward. We sat outside at a cafe, fingers intertwined on the table in full view. No one stared. No one cared. The world had changed a little because we refused to shrink. That evening we hosted a small dinner for the original team, Jordan, Mike, Riley, a few others. Stories flowed like wine. Mike laughed about the day he thought he'd ruined my life and instead helped birth something bigger. Riley spoke about finding home. I looked around the table and realized the family I had built was stronger than the one I was born into. Later, on the balcony under the same city lights that once witnessed my lowest night, Easton pulled me close. You did it, Aaron. You made them all silent, not with force, but with the life you chose to live. I rested my forehead against his. We did it. Together. The journey had been messy, painful, beautiful. I had faced betrayal, misunderstanding, family rejection, and my own deepest fears. Each decision, to trust, to forgive, to stand tall, had shaped the man I became. The boy who once hid in plain sight now stood in the spotlight unashamed. Success wasn't the revenge. Love was. Acceptance was. And the courage to keep choosing both every single day. As the city hummed below us, I realized the truest acceptance had never come from the world. It had come from the man I saw in the mirror each morning, the one who finally believed he was enough. True or false, the only acceptance that truly matters is the one you finally give yourself.